Welcome to the Nobodies Season 2, Episode 8? Yeah, that's right. This is a podcast where we talk to creatives, mostly around Portland, about what makes them passionate about their art, their struggles, their ruts, and why they do what they do. On this episode, we have Lee H. Tillman. He is a comedian. He also makes beats. He has a YouTube channel, but his main focus is on comedy. He is the most relaxed, chill comedian I've ever heard, and he's absolutely hilarious. It's honestly amazing that he's only been in the scene for 2-3 years. He's relatively green, and he just knows himself, and he's absolutely hilarious, and I hope you enjoy the conversation as much as I did. All right, cool. Yeah, this is season 2 of the Nøbodies Project. Our guest today is Lee H. Tillman, comedian, art musician as well.
Keep going.
YouTuber, does a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, first and foremost, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I've seen you at Telltale a couple of times, I believe. And then I think I've seen you at other just random spots when I was watching Jaron and Amani a couple times. But the first question I always ask is, what do you do for money? And if it differs, what do you do for art?
Well, that's a funny question because this is actually my last week of my normal job. And
oh, really?
By the time this comes out, I probably will be a full-time comic.
Dang, that's so exciting.
And you're getting the scoop. I haven't told anyone that. But yeah, I'll be a full-time comic. But what I'm doing right now for like the next week, I am a clinical research coordinator.
Oh, wow.
For Providence Hospital.
Oh, okay.
And I work mostly with people with MS.
Oh, wow. So that's really, that's a very interesting job as is. Yeah. But what made you like take the leap? Was it just finally the money worked out?
At a certain point, how many times can you wake up and not do the thing that you want to do? You know, I'm not getting younger. If COVID has taught us anything, it's like you don't know what's going to happen next. So start doing the stuff that you like doing. Or who knows when it'll, Yeah. No one knows what's going to happen. So just do the stuff you love.
Yeah. Did that shift start to happen in COVID that you were like, okay, how do I go full time?
Yeah.
Because clearly your job, it wasn't like, not that the disparaging at all. It's like, that's a job that you had to go to school for. And like, exactly, there's an experience, there's a ladder you had to get up.
Yeah. Yeah. It was something that probably, maybe like within the last year, I was thinking about, because I wasn't really we can talk about this in a minute, but like I started doing stand-up in California, like I started in LA like years ago and I stopped, and I didn't start again until 2021. So as far as comedy, I'd only been like doing it like since 2021. I have years of experience before that, but I stopped for like 7 years. So I hadn't been on stage in 7 years when I started in 2021. So I hadn't really been doing it that long. But as soon as I got back into it, I found my style, my groove, and it worked out. And I was like, oh, this is the thing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like it took me years to figure it out, but like, yeah, this is the thing. And I just held on to it, and it was like, well, I gotta. Who knows? Yeah. Like I said, with COVID, it just hits you. You're just like, you don't know what's going to happen. So why not? If you found a thing, just take it as far as you can. And I just decided to take the leap.
Yeah. That's insane that, I'd love to hear like, your origin story with all that. But it's insane that you really just got back into it in 2021 because, I've told Molly, I've told everybody on our team that was like, the reason I want you on is because you have such a distinct style, and it's very clear that you like know who you are while you're performing. That very, your Instagram puts it very, very well. Think fast, talk slow, and having that just so relaxed attitude is something that you only really see from like more veteran comics. So I'd love to hear like the 7 years off, starting in LA, how long you did it, even like inspiration.
Yeah, you want to go into it right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sure. So I started. The first thing I ever did was like it was a talent show, and
How old were you?
I was like 28.
Okay.
Which is pretty old in LA. Like in LA, like most comics are like 19 and 20.
Yeah.
So that was I was the old head there. But I was like 28 when I first started, when I just was like, and I had never done stand up, but I felt like maybe I could do it at a talent show. I don't know why I thought that, but
low stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did it. It was at my school. I was just starting grad school at the time. So I just went, and it went well. It went well enough to where the next year when they had a talent show, I hosted it.
Oh, nice.
So it went pretty well. And then after it went well, I started going out to clubs and trying to like figure it out. And what I figured out was that LA is a terrible place to start doing comedy because it's just hard to get stage time.
Yeah, there's so much competition.
There's people that aren't comics that are just there. They're just people that they're actors,
right?
Or they're singers, and their agent told them go to this open mic and do this. So like they're taking up space of people that actually want to do it. And I don't know. It's just really hard to get stage time, and like it's like logistically it's hard to get around.
Yeah. Because the public transit is not amazing.
Yeah, and just driving, like the traffic in LA, just getting like you'll spend like hours. Let's say a show, let's say an open mic starts at 8:00. Mm-hmm. You have to get there. They're probably going to cap the number of people that can get into the open mic. So if the show starts at 8, they're probably going to make the decision at 7:30 who gets in, which means you have to probably line up at like 6:30 in order to like even be in line, because there's a line around the block at all the major open mic, at least when I started. So you have to like get there early enough to where you're even going to be included in the original cap. Like if they cap it at 25 or whatever, you have to get there early enough so that you're within the first 25 people. So you're there at 6:30. You're there. They don't make the decision until 7:30. Show starts at 8. You probably, if you get in, you may not go on to like 8:30. So how many hours have you just wasted of your life? And then if it doesn't work at 8, it's 7:30. Now you have to go do that again at another open mic and wait and hope that you get in.
Yeah, just hope you even get there on time.
So you can be out until 1:00 in the morning and only do like 10 minutes. And doing that every night. And I was in grad school at the time. So after 3 years, I was like, I was pretty mediocre. It's not really doing anything.
Yeah, because especially with stand-up, it's repetition. I mean, it's with any kind of art. The more you do it, the better you're going to get.
You have to get up and you have to get out all the time. And with just doing it that way, it just, I don't know, I wasn't good. I wasn't getting better.
Yeah.
It's just hard to get better. So I just stopped. I think my last show that I did was at the Pasadena Ice House, which was a good show. It went really well, but it went so well in my head. I was like, this is never going to happen again. I got into my head. I was like, okay, like I had a great show. The next time I'm going to bomb, I know, because, and I just kind of tricked myself into not going on stage and trying to like get on a high note, I guess, whatever. And
I was going to ask if there was a moment where you're like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
Yeah, and
like,
it was
a good one though.
Yeah. I went out. Yeah, it was a kind of, I guess, like a high note. Like it was a good show. But I kind of like tricked myself into like, well, maybe I'll go out for another couple. And then like as the months went on and on, I stopped doing it less and less. And then I had to focus on grad school and got a job and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And 7 years go by and I never get on stage. And then COVID hits.
And then when did you move up to Portland?
I originally moved in 2017 to Portland. I moved back for family reasons. Okay. And then I moved back here, Portland, to 2021.
Oh, okay.
And when I got back, it was probably like in April of the year. So nothing had really opened up yet when I was back. So by the time... when things started opening up again was probably like the fall or somewhere around there. Okay. And I was just sitting at home, not doing anything. I was like, I think I can do it. I think like I mean, it's been like I think I might be.
Yeah,
I could do this.
Was there a catalyst of like, or you just like saw other people doing it, saw the scene?
No, it was just like I mean, I love comedy. It's just something that I didn't realize I loved comedy until like it was probably like I started listening to WTF.
Yeah,
With Mark Maron.
Yeah.
And it was just comics not being necessarily funny. They were just talking about comedy. And at that time I had a job where I drove around a lot.
Sure.
So I was in my car a lot. So I was just listening to this podcast all the time. And just listening to it, I don't know, it just kind of hit me like I just loved it. It wasn't about them being funny. I just wanted to hear comics talk about being a comic.
Yeah.
And it was just amazing to me just hearing about their stories and, you know, what they went through and how they write jokes and all that stuff. And when I was a kid, the term comedy nerd didn't exist.
No.
Until like Judd Apatow like kind of made that a word. Yeah. And I didn't know like there were other people that like loved comedy the way I did. And then when I heard WTF, and I've even went to a couple live shows because I was in LA.
Oh, nice.
So I've seen him, you know, do it live a couple times, and it was just that was when I figured out that I loved it. But I don't know, over the years, it was just I don't know. I've always loved it, and it just felt like that's what I should be doing.
Yeah,
I can't really explain. It was just like I think I can do it, and then I went up, and the first open mic that I did, it went okay. It wasn't bad. It went okay. It was like, I mean, I hadn't done it in 7 years. Yeah. It's been a while.
And
give yourself a break. Yeah, and I was trying to do like, because when I first started out, I wanted to like tell stories. That's why I was trying to be like, I don't want to say like every other comedian, but like the typical comedian goes on and they tell stories about like whatever, you know, whatever's going on in their lives. Mm. And I tried to do that, and I tried to be like really like energetic and, you know, do the thing that you think a comic is supposed to do when they're on stage. And I was just like, this doesn't feel right. Like my set went okay, but just like this, I don't like this. Yeah. So I put up on my calendar, I put 30 days from that open mic. I said 30 days from then, if I'm still in this and I don't like it, I'm not going to do it. I'll stop after 30 days. Yeah. And the second time I went up, so that night when I came home after that open mic, I said, okay, I'm gonna just do, because I took too long to get to the punchline. That was my problem. Like I would forget. I'd try to tell the story and I'd be telling this long story, and then I get to the punchline and it's like, it just wasn't working. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just gonna do setup punchline. It's just going to be set up punchline. I just want to hit, like, I want to have the hardest punchlines I could possibly have. I'm just going to do that. And I didn't necessarily, because if for anyone that has never seen me, like, it is very deadpan. It is very slow. And the reason why I did it slow in the beginning was because I couldn't remember the joke, couldn't remember the punchline. So I just like was taking my time. So it seems like that's what I'm doing it on purpose at the beginning anyway. And then eventually it became my style. But like in the beginning, I was just like, okay, I just need to take my time so I can get to this punchline. And that just became my style. Like that, it worked. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So I went up, and the second time it killed. The second time I went up after my 7-year break, it killed. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try it again. Did it again. It worked again. And I was like, okay, this is it. And within, I'd say 2-3 weeks, I was booking shows. And I never stopped booking shows. I've been booking shows ever since.
Dang.
I never got to the 30 days.
That must be so vindicating though. Yeah. Of you're like, okay, let me just try to be a little bit more myself. Because I listen to tons of podcasts just with comedians talking about comedy and stuff, and they always talk about how it takes 7-8 years, and for those first 7-8 years you're mimicking somebody else. You're mimicking all your inspirations. But that's great that you did take 7-8 years, but you just weren't doing comedy.
I just wasn't doing comedy. I mean, the thing is that you have to know who you are as a person, and by that time I knew who I was as a person.
I was gonna say, do you think you benefited from being older?
Yeah, I think that's partly it. Like you were talking about like my experience. Like I don't have as much experience as a lot of comics that I look up to in the Portland scene right now, as far as comedians, as far as like doing comedy, but I'm older than than a lot of them. So I have like just experience, like I know who I am as a human, just being alive. So I think that brings a lot to it too. Like I don't really get nervous on stage.
Right.
Because I know who I am.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Is like, do you still get those like butterflies or
before,
anything?
like maybe like 5 minutes before, like when the other person is going on and they just got the light, then I'm like, okay, I'm in. That's when I'm in my head. I'm like, okay, I need to like focus. Okay, what do I want to do? And I need to get better at this. But like what I do right now, which I wish I didn't do, but I have my opening joke, I have my closing joke, and everything in between is just what joke pops into my head. So I don't have like a set, like an actual set. And I wish I did, because it feels like it would be easier if I could just like, just
coming from you started doing this style because you couldn't remember the punchlines. I figured that you might have just went all into just okay, we need organization over here, because otherwise we're not going to remember anything.
But like at the same time, like all the organization comes before. Like I'm writing out. I sit down, and some people don't. Some people write at open mics. I don't. I sit down on the weekend and I'll take a couple hours and I actually will like write, like take that time to actually like write jokes. And that's when I do everything, and that's when I'm working out. And in my head, I'm saying the joke 100 times in my head. Yeah. And then I go do it at the open mic, and that works it out a little bit more. But then when I first started, my goal was just to get 5 minutes. I just want to get 5 minutes, so that when somebody asked me, can you do a guest spot? I'd be like, yeah, I got it. I got 5 minutes. I can do that. And then after I got 5, I wanted to get 10. And I got 10, 15, 20, and then it just kept going from there. So my goal was like to have enough jokes to where I don't have to memorize anything. I can just be like, okay, I can do 50. You want me to do 15 minutes? I can do 15 minutes, and I really think about it.
Yeah.
I can just...
I remember Kyle Kinane, who now is kind of in the Portland scene, which is like unreal. He talked about how he did something similar with his notebook, where he doesn't have jokes written there. He has stuff to remind him of jokes, and then he just pulls out jokes here and there. Yeah,
my notes, like I have everything's in the note apps, and everything is just like 2 words that'll just let me know what the joke is.
Okay, so it's not fully written out.
Nothing is written. I never like write anything fully out. It's just like, because I have the idea, and it just goes over in my head over and over again.
Okay.
And then because everything I'm saying is like very specific. The reason why I don't curse on stage. Some people don't even notice that I don't curse.
I didn't notice that at all.
I don't curse on stage. And the reason why, it's nothing moral. It's because every word goes where it's supposed to go.
Oh, interesting.
Everything is, and sometimes curse words don't, if it's not adding to the joke, if it's not, and if it doesn't like fit like right where I want it to, because there's a rhythm to it, and if it doesn't fit into the rhythm, don't use it. Yeah. So that's the reason why I don't curse on stage, because most of the time curse words are extra words. Yeah. And unless they add to the joke, I don't use it.
Yeah. I think I was watching like HBO's Talking Funny or something like that, and Louis C.K. mentioned how if you can get to the joke in the least amount of words possible, that's how you start writing really, really good jokes. And that's why, and then Jerry Seinfeld was like, that's why you don't use curse words, because they're filler words. Yeah. And it's really interesting.
Yeah, he's an inspiration. Jerry Seinfeld, the way
I was going to ask who the inspirations were, because
you said Kyle Kinane.
Yep.
He's definitely, I just did a show with him, and I had to like stop myself from doing
fanboying out,
being that person. But like, he definitely is an inspiration. Yeah. I just saw Dana Gould last night. Ooh. Oh, he's definitely an inspiration. The way he writes, his timing, everything.
I was pleasantly surprised, because I never saw his stand up until somewhat recently. I was pleasantly surprised. I think he put one out somewhat recently, and I was very surprised that
he's one of my favorite. Like, it's just joke writers. He's just amazing.
Yeah, he's you talked about joke writing and how you go over stuff in your head, and I noticed that when you go over stuff in your head and you say it a million times over your head, it's way different than actually saying it out loud. Yeah. Do you end up do you practice saying it out loud into the mirror to nobody, or over your head, and then let's see what happens live?
I've never practiced in front of a mirror. People always say that. I maybe people do that. I don't know. I've never done that.
It seems like a movie thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think about what I look like. I know what I look like. I don't need to. I can figure it out. But I guess if you're doing like if you're the type of person that's doing facial, if you're Jim Carrey, you're doing facial expressions, I imagine. But I say it over and over in my head when I'm writing it, and then like maybe if it's a new joke and I'm about to go to an open mic, I want to try it out, I'll say it. I'll just walk back and forth in my apartment just saying it. Yeah. That's pretty much all I do. And then when I get on stage, I'll probably mess it up when I get on stage. That's generally what happens. But then I just do it. Like I write typically on a Saturday for a couple hours, and then I go out every day for a week to open mics and to try out however many jokes. And I try to write like 5 minutes. And by the end of the week, hopefully I have 3. Yeah. That's the goal. It's the end of the week. When that open mic run is over, I have 3 more minutes that I can add to my act.
Yeah. You talked about not, writing at open mics. And so do you just dedicate time? You're like, okay, I got to think. Or is it more inspirationally based? I assume you're taking notes all week anyways, just throughout what's happening in your life.
Yeah. If something interesting happens, I'll take a note. But a lot of times this might be kind of weird, but I just I just write a list of setups. Yeah. I have I say, okay, I'm going to do 10 setups, and they could be anything. I just bought some new shoes. I recently painted my nails. Anything that I can think of. And then I'm saying, okay, I'm going to write 5 jokes based on these setups. Yeah. And it's just a practice. It's just it is kind of a practice.
You can kind of find comedy. Yeah. You can find comedy in most things if you're clever enough.
Yeah. If you figure it out. So it's kind of a tool to like try to figure out, okay, how can I write a joke about this? Like, what is here? How do I make this funny? There's something here. What can I do? And I write those 5 jokes, and then those are the jokes that I typically use and try to do at open mics. Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of people, and I've definitely, fall into this as well, is that when you always think, oh, I'll do it when I get inspired. And to your point, just 5 things that you just notice. I remember Ben Schwartz saying that he writes like 100 movie ideas like every time he writes, and that's how he starts it. But they don't have to be good. You just write them down, and then eventually you'll find something. Finding that inspiration to really do that has always been something that I struggled with, but forcing myself to do it, you can kind of reverse engineer it and do it that way. But talking about like how you get to your joke writing, you talked about rhythm a lot. How did you figure out that like which rhythm works? Obviously through a lot of trial and error, but is it through just certain jokes worked really well and then you try to mirror that, or is it how did it evolve?
Well, my inspiration comes probably more from rappers than comedians. Okay, yeah. How a rapper writes, they're writing setup punchlines. Yeah. Like if you a punchline rapper specific, like a battle rapper, they're writing setup punchline. That's all they're doing. That's their whole thing. So that's more how I write. It's like I write. I figure out, like I might have every joke that I have may be a long story, but I figure out, okay, what's the punchline? Like what
are the important parts people need to know about to make this funny?
Yeah, as soon as I figure out, okay, what is the thing? What's the least amount of words I can use to make that funny? Yeah. To where you get what I'm trying to say, and I don't have to like tell a whole story. Because again, I told you I was trying to tell stories in the beginning. I'm not good at it. So it's like, okay, what's the least amount of words I can say to make that punchline make sense? Yeah. And a lot of times, and sometimes I write to where the setup matches the rhythm of the punchline. Yeah. And sometimes when that works out, I love that. But also, like, there are certain words that I want to hit and like emphasize to make sure you understand. Like one of my favorite jokes is one time after a show, a guy came up and he told me, I really like your jokes. I just wish you were more animated. And the reason why I hit animated is because the punchline is, and then I dropped an anvil on his head. So it sometimes it takes a minute for people to get it, but like the reason why I hit animated so hard is that you can animated, anvil, like anvil falling on someone. So like I'll hit certain words harder, or I'll like mirror the setup and the punchline so that they kind of like flow in the same way.
Right. And even I wonder. This is the last question before I'll take a little break. Is if there's frustration with like people not getting jokes like that, because like even though that's relatively simple, one of my recently one of my favorite comedians, Daniel Van Kirk, he talks about how good, like decent comedy is like you go from A and make a connection to C, but really, really good comedy is like A all the way to like H. And like even though that's like an A to like D, you know what I mean? Where it's like animated, okay, it doesn't mean just like me being animated, it's the next thing. How frustrating have you got, especially with your jokes that are very meticulous, with people not getting the jokes, even though you like them?
It gets frustrating, but at the same time, I'm not precious about any joke. If I do a joke all week and it doesn't work, well, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, you don't have the pride about it. You're like, no, it is funny.
No, if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, and I'll just move on because I don't know. Like if enough people don't get it, it's not worth it. Not to me anyway. Because what I'm always trying to do, like I said in the beginning, I'm just adding time. Yeah, that's it. I'm just adding time to my set. Yeah. And if this joke, like I'm not going to do a joke that's not going to work. It's probably not going to work for most people. No, I mean it's not that big a deal to me. I'm not precious about jokes.
That's huge because I feel like that would be a really hard thing.
Yeah, a lot of comics are very. I've
like
seen
they're kids, but you got to be like with editing or writing at all. You got to be brutal with how you like take things out. Yeah. Yep. Cool. We'll take a quick break and then we'll get another 20-25 minutes and we'll be good to go.
Sounds good.
Cool.
And we're back.
Yeah. First question I'm going to ask you is how do you deal with creative ruts? I mean, obviously you can force yourself to write, but what's the worst creative rut you've been in, and how do you get out of them?
I don't know. You just gotta like the blank page will kick everybody's butt at some point. Like it does it like I don't care how long you've been doing it. That blank page is terrifying. So I just kind of like force myself to write, and it's tough to like force yourself to do that because, like I said, like the blank page can be intimidating, but if that's what you do, then I mean, there's really no way around it. Yeah. If you feel yourself in a rut, like you're not writing anything new or anything, then you may need to take a break and go live some life. Go do something. Go kayak or something.
Yeah. I was talking to Jerry, and he said something very similar. Where it's like, you just gotta live life for a little bit.
Just live a little more, and then you'll something will happen. Something funny will happen, and you'll be able to write some type of joke around it. Or you might write a different joke that you wouldn't have written a couple months ago because you figured something new out about yourself. So
have you ever went through phases, at least within these last 2 years? I mean, obviously you had the 7 years where you took a big break, but have you ever just needed to take a break from going up, or just didn't feel like going up and just force yourself to do it?
Not really, because like I said, I'm just trying to like really. Well, right now, like I said, I'm going full time, so I don't feel I can't take a break.
Yeah, is there more pressure on you now that it's not just this is a fun thing I do that sometimes makes me money?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, like now it's going to be my livelihood. So now I have to make sure that I can like take care of myself with it. Yeah. I mean, I'm not completely hanging out there. I had a real job. Yeah. So I have some money saved, so I'm okay. I mean, now it's like, okay, this is it. Like you're jumping off the cliff. This is the thing, because I can't like go back to another. Like I can't be like, I took 3 years off to do stand-up comedy. Can I get my medical job back again?
I mean, we talked about Kyle today. He has a whole bit. I mean, I'm sure you know the bit where he talks about quitting his job, and he's like, well, I got no applicable skills now.
I can't. It's kind of, I'm not going to be able to go back and be like, I took 3 years off. Can I get my, can I go back to the hospital and get some, get a job or something? Like it's not really going to work. So like, I got to make this work. And it doesn't feel like something it doesn't even feel like something I want to do. It feels like something that I have to do. I feel like I don't really have a choice. I feel like this is just the next thing, and I just have to do it.
I love that. Yeah. I was going to ask about some of the other stuff that you're doing as well. So obviously comedy is number one. It's very apparent that that's where the passion lies.
Yeah.
But there's also, I noticed that you've been promoting a little bit of your YouTube, and the biggest one on that was the series of Haven't Heard It. Love the idea of it, of just being like, listen guys, I haven't heard it. So so you're doing like, you can explain it probably better than me.
Well, I actually have 3 different series. One of them is Never Heard It. It's a series where I talk about classic albums that I never heard before, because I'm of the age where I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old when NWA's Straight Outta Compton came out. So I'm old enough to have heard it, but I never actually heard it.
Right.
So, and that was the first one that I was like, because I think it was around about the time the movie came out, and I was like, you know what? I don't think I've ever actually heard that entire album.
Yeah, like sat down and gave it a thorough listen.
And I'm like, I'm old enough to where like I could have heard it if I wanted to. Like, not like I was born, I was alive. So it's like, well, what would happen if I like, you know, my theory is just like, it's okay to not know everything.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that. Let's just talk about, you know, there's like one of my catchphrase on when I do YouTube is that this is Lee Tillman, the only guy on the internet that doesn't know everything. That's my catchphrase. So
that's exactly what I was going to point to. Yeah. Is everybody, especially when you're like, oh, I'm a music nerd, like I want to talk about music. There's this expectation that you know everything, you're well versed, you know, you're Fantano, whatever, whatever it is. But I love that refreshing, like, first things first, I don't know shit, and let's talk about that. I
mean, well, I know a lot, I just don't know everything.
Yeah,
and that's okay. I mean, Anthony Fantano, I'm sure there are albums that he's never heard before. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So, and I do get comments where people are like, oh, I can't believe you, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, whatever. I just delete those and move on because who cares? But yeah, it's, and sometimes I do invite my friends. I eventually kind of like ran out of albums. Yeah. So I invited my friends on to talk about albums that they hadn't heard before. So I got to talk about other ones. So it's kind of like an interview show at this point, more because I don't really like do the solo ones anymore. But yeah, never heard as a show. It's mostly like an interview show now, where I talk to other people that haven't heard classic albums, and it has to be something that came out when you were a teenager or in your early 20s, and it has to be in a genre of music that you know a lot about. Yeah. So it can't be like a country album and you don't know anything about country. Like, who cares? Like that. Right. Of course, you never heard the Garth Brooks album if you don't listen to country. Like, but it has to be like, say you're a hip hop nerd, but there's like, you know, you've never heard All Eyes on Me by Tupac or something. Like, well, why haven't you heard? Let's talk about that. What did you think of it? Were the songs you didn't like? What you know, what worked for you? What didn't? So it's just a fun thing to do. Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's like, even though I'm very into like, you know, shows and movies and stuff, it's always interesting to go back and, because I don't have a vast history of like all the movies before I was born, stuff like that. It's interesting to go back and watch those and see like, oh, the things I love now are directly inspired by all those classic albums, classic movies, and everything like that. But with YouTube, do you see that as an extension of like your comedy, or is that just venture into something completely different? Because it doesn't really seem like you're not doing straight comedy. It's not comedy. Like, there are jokes in between, but there's no real comedy element. Like, to be honest, if I'm being honest, like, music is my first love. More than anything in the world. Like, that's the thing. If I could be famous for anything, I wish it would be for music. I make music. I tried making music before, and I make music now, and no one cares. I mean, like, I don't want to. I do have fans. There are people that like buy my music and stuff like that. It is like it's going well, but comedy is the thing that people seem to like more. And people pay me more for, and I get paid more for. So it's like, I think I'll lean more towards comedy, just because that's the thing that seems to be working the most right now. But music is my first love. Yeah. How would you describe your music? I've listened to a couple different things, but it's just instrumental hip hop music, and I don't know. Some people, I guess other people would say like it's chill lo-fi, like that.
Yeah, that's kind of where
that's where most people fall in. But I don't know. I don't really think of. I mean, most artists won't. No one likes labeling their own stuff. So, but
and I would kind of hope that if you're not into it already, it's not like you're going to get into musical comedy.
That's not really.
I couldn't see you.
Yeah, people always ask me if I'm going to like marry the two. I'm like, nah, not really. I don't really.
Yeah, they seem like very separate things, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think everybody wants everybody to be this like full, complete package, and it's like it's cool that you have two different avenues for that.
Yeah, it's okay. Like if you meet me off stage, I'm not the person that's on stage. Like I mean, that's definitely me, but it's definitely like a hyper version of me. Like I'm not as dry as that.
Yeah.
I'm not a particularly talkative person, but I don't talk a whole lot. Yeah. And my demeanor is kind of what it is on stage, but it's definitely turned up a little bit.
Yeah. To take that to another level, when you tell people you're a comedian, especially with like your dry demeanor and everything, are people surprised?
Yeah, people are generally surprised. They're like, hey, yeah, I did, because you seem so serious all the time. Like I didn't like people. Yeah, it is. People do kind of. I mean, I guess the people that like know me that talk to me, they probably can tell because I'm probably like a little more sarcastic, and the stuff like the jokes that I do make are probably like they're not like office banter jokes, like the little I hate Monday joke. Like they like when I work with people, like they can kind of tell, oh, he's a little edgier than so people that I actually like talk to a lot. But like generally if it's just like I'm not gonna be cracking jokes in front of my boss all the time. So
yeah, like I was gonna ask, because when I look at somebody like Brent and I'm like, that person was a class clown for sure, like without a doubt. Were you like class clown or anything like that? Or
I was
you very
like
subtle?
Best friends with a class clown. I would
that
be
tracks.
like, I was the person that like told the class clown what to say that would be funny.
Yeah, and he just said it louder.
And then they would say it louder, and then they'd get the credit, and I'd be fine with it. Because honestly, I like doing stand-up, but what I really want to do is write.
Awesome.
So that's kind of what I've been doing since I was a kid. I would write the jokes for the class clown so they could get more laughs or whatever.
Love that. Talking about writing, do you have any ambitions to do like TV, movies?
That is
sketch.
That's actually my number one ambition, is to write for TV.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I really want to do. Like I like doing stand up. It's fun. But I think maybe I just like this. Maybe it's just the more practical side of me that likes the idea of like having a job and being able, like being in one place, being, like showing up,
income,
doing this thing, and then you get paid, and instead of like constantly being like, book me on a show, can you please?
the whole selling yourself,
the whole thing, doing that like every, I think I'd rather be writing for TV is my number one goal right now.
If you had a dream show, maybe current or past, what show would you want to write on?
It would probably be like something like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
I could see you doing that. Yeah,
that would be
brilliant show too.
Yeah, that's. I think it's written beautifully, but I don't know how much longer it's gonna last. It seems like it's leaving pretty soon.
Yeah,
he seemed like he's leaving pretty soon, so I'm not really hanging on to that. But something like that. Yeah. In that lane would be like, I feel like would be perfect for me.
Yeah. No, yeah, that tracks perfectly for you, honestly. But talking about shows, your show, Good News, with Lee Tillman, currently on kind of a break, looking for something new. But I'd love for you to talk to me like how that came to be. Like, how do you get a show going?
Well, what I was doing already, I was kind of like practicing writing jokes, like writing like monologue jokes. That's kind of what I was thinking. Like when you look at a news story and you're like, okay, well, what's the joke here? What can I like write here? So I was kind of like doing that. Like on Instagram, I would post a news line, news heading or something, and then I would write some type of joke about it. And I was like, well, what if I just did a whole show where I just did that? Like the whole show is basically just monologue jokes. Like it's just, you see this happen in the news today? So it's, what if I did a show where it was other comics coming up, and they would just like, to make it more interesting and more lively, they would just riff. They would just be, they would improvise. So Good News is a show where I create these PowerPoints of just 10, 12 news stories that I saw throughout the week. And I put them up there, and then every comic that's on stage, there's usually 3 comics on stage with me, and we just riff for however long until we run out of stuff, and then we go to the next story. And it's a really fun show. It was really great to do.
It seems like a nice departure from, because you said that most of your stuff is meticulously like word by word, and this kind of just seems like the opposite. It's like you obviously have a little bit of leg up, you know what's going to come next, but it's still just pure riffing off of other people and stuff.
Yeah, so that's fun to be able to do that, because I've been on like shows that improvise, and people were kind of scared to put me on the show because they were like, "Do you improvise?" Like I don't like. They were like, "No, I can do it. Like I'm not bad at it. I could do it. It's just like it's not like what I prefer to do, but you know, it's fun to do. I like doing it because I don't have to like write a set. I can go up there and just say whatever I think is funny.
Is it to be there?
Yeah. I just have to show up. But that part, like Good News, it's on hiatus right now because we're looking for a new venue. But as soon as we find a new venue, hopefully it'll be up.
Yeah, how is it finding a place to do a show? Is it like you have to pitch this venue like, okay, this is the show, I've sold out other places? Like, how does the logistics about it work out?
First of all, I was looking for venues that had like a music, mostly like music venues.
Okay.
Because the show needs tech. It needs like a lot of tech to go along with it, because there are 4 people on stage, so we need 4 mics. There's a PowerPoint presentation, so we need like extra stuff. Like it's not just a comic with a mic. I can't just do it at a bar. That's what I'm saying. So I can't just do it anywhere. It's not as interesting, and also I want it to be kind of like elevated a little bit. Like I don't want this to be like something that's on the side. I want it to be a show where people like sit down and pay attention, because it is we're talking about like news stories. Like it's something that you would have to like listen to and like pay attention to.
You can't just pick it up in the middle.
Yeah. You can't just like walk in, you like while you're having a beer and just like be at a bar, and like it wouldn't be the same.
No.
So I wanted it to be a place that was like solely dedicated to that. So that's the first thing, is trying to find a place that like fits your show. Because if it's not a show that can kind of go anywhere, you have to find something that fits. So that was the first hurdle. And then I had to like pitch the show. I had never really done a comedy show, but I've done music shows. Like I host a music show right now.
Nice.
It's called A Beat Happening. We can talk about that too.
Yeah, for sure.
But I host like a music show, and I had done that before, and it had been pretty popular. So I kind of like used that. Like, no, I haven't necessarily done comedy before, but I have done these music venues.
Yeah. It's got the skeleton of the same thing.
So you're just trying to like kind of sell yourself to show like the other things that you have done. And I don't know, it's like writing a resume or a cover letter when you're applying for a job. You're just trying to show them all the stuff that you did, and hopefully they say yes.
Talking about that, it's like, how do you like show receipts in the sense of like, oh yeah, this show went really well and people came and sold out? I mean, I assume from your other shows.
You
assume it has to be a lot of word of mouth too.
Yeah, like other comics that have, like, maybe you're working with a venue that has worked with comics before.
Okay.
And if you know other comics, like people in the scene, other comics know who I am, so maybe they've worked with them before. Mm-hmm. So if you like let them know that you're kind of in the scene, you're not just like some random person just coming in, just asking to be on the show. Like, let them know that, I am a comic. People know me. You can ask around if you know other comics. So it's kind of like, it is kind of like word of mouth, but I mean, if they're a venue worth their salt, they probably work with other comics before, so they know they kind of know.
They know the scene
people.
as well because they're an active part of it.
Yeah.
How is the Portland scene? I mean, you talked about how LA is kind of the worst for that. How is the Portland scene? Because I've only heard really positive things about it, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
I think it's great. When like I love all the comics that I work with right now. I do feel like sometimes it is a little too nice.
That's a Portland. That has to be a Portland thing.
It does feel like a little too nice because I feel like there are some newer comics that feel like they deserve a little more than they feel like they can just, they deserve to be put on certain shows when they haven't really done the work. Yeah. Like I said, I'm from LA. Like I started in LA. You have to work to get to get any amount of
that's what I assumed, because I heard about all the comics starting out even in like DC or like New York or Chicago, where it's like you got to really
you got to put in
your work
years to get noticed at all. So I feel like just from the short time that I've been here, I've seen kind of newer comics think that they deserve more than they actually have gotten. And I'm just like, nah, I'm not gonna put you. Yeah, don't be mad because you didn't get on that show. Put in more work, get funnier, and come back again.
Yeah, and that's not even a slight. That's we all have to put in the work. Not everybody is because you hear about Donald Glover who just got his special because he's a generational talent. You're not that. If you were, we know.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are shows that I'm not going to be on because I'm not at that level yet. Yeah, and you just know where you are. That's all. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's interesting now. Talking about your other show. What was it called again?
Oh, it's called A Beat Happening. I host it with my friend Love Jones, and it is a beatmaker showcase. Cool. It's a monthly show. It's every third Sunday. Right now it's at Lolo Pass, and we just have local beat makers and DJs come in and we just perform. It's mostly for instrumental hip hop. So nice. It's just a lot of people have their first performance ever was with A Beat Happening.
Oh, that's cool. That must feel awesome to give people that spotlight.
Yeah. So it's just a place for people to just hang out and chill and just listen to dope producers from Portland.
That's sweet. Is it more of a laid back, or is it more of this is a concert?
It's a little more laid back because it's during the day. It's from 4 to 7.
Okay.
It's every third Sunday from 4 to 7. So it's it's a chill thing to do in the afternoon on a Sunday. It's just you just
sounds
come,
very much about
hang out, have a drink if you want to, and it's all ages too. So you can have a drink if you want to. You can bring your kids. Just hang out. We try to make sure that there's every person represented on stage, and we try to make sure that there's no cursing or anything. Sure. So it's not. I just want to make it kid friendly. That's a lot of reason. That's part of the reason why it's instrumental hip hop. We do have rappers on every now and then, but it's just a fun show. It's a great community too. We've been going. The show we're going on our 6th year. Oh, dang. I've been a part of it for maybe 3.
Okay.
But Jonas or Love Jones, and his his business partner that originally started it, he decided that he wanted to do something else. So when he kind of wanted to when Jonas wanted to bring it back after the lockdown, I said I would do anything that you need done, I'll help you out doing. So that's how I became a part of it. So for probably the last 3 years, I've been a part of it.
Nice.
And it's just it's a fun show.
Yeah, no, I love the two elements. How do you balance the two in the sense of where you put your focus in? Because even though you said that comedy's obviously going very well right now, music is also one of those passions, if not bigger passion than comedy. How do you balance where you put your time and effort?
Well, I don't know. It's just when I have time to do whatever I do, I just. When I have time to write, then I write, and then when I have time to make music, I make music. For the first 5 years when I was putting out music, I was putting out 3 albums a year.
Dang.
But this year I'm like, I put out an album at the beginning of this year.
Okay.
And then I was like, all right, well,
is that the one that you made the cassettes for?
Yeah, I made cassettes.
Yeah,
for
those are
that.
sweet. Yeah, those are really cool.
So that was a Bandcamp only album. And it's called Undiscovered Colors. Free Tillman. Go get that on Bandcamp.
Yeah, we'll get all those plugs in there. Cool. I have a couple questions I like to ask near the end here. First one being, if you could, I talk more about like Instagram and how social media plays into the promotion side of everything. So I always like to ask, would you take your current following that you have now or tomorrow have 1 million followers? Granted, they could unfollow you the next day as soon as they see your stuff, but which one would you take?
So I would have, the followers, how would I get the 1 million followers?
They would just be random people.
Well, no, I wouldn't want random people. That doesn't make sense. Like, who cares if
Right.
they don't, like, if they don't know who I am? If they're not there, I want people there because they want to be there.
Yeah.
They saw something I did and were like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. That makes way more sense because I'd rather have like a small passionate following than a large following that
quantity or quality over quantity.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And then the other one is, at what milestone or achievement or anything like that would you say that you've made it? And obviously that's very subjective.
Yeah. I feel like the definition of making it is when you can wake up most days of your life and do what you want to do. If you can wake up I'd say 4 out of the 7 days of the week and you can do the thing that you want to do, whether that's raising your kid, whether that's being on the beach relaxing, whether it's, being a doctor or, being a musician, whatever it is. If you can wake up most days and do the thing that you want to do, that's success.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, and I could only imagine that, especially, I could imagine what next week might feel like for you.
Yeah.
Finally not having a job like that and now just doing your passion, doing comedy full time.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
But thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for
is there
having me,
anything you want to plug? Obviously, the good news will come back in some way. You post a lot of your live show, your scheduling on your Instagram, which we'll plug as well. But is there anything else specifically? Oh, and the music.
There's a YouTube channel. Never heard. It's when I do music, it's Free Tillman, FreeTillman. But the comedy is Lee H. Tillman. I want to get it famous enough to where people say the H.
I know. I remember you on Instagram saying that, so I was like, I'm going to say the H every time.
Hey, when people don't, when it's comedy, I want you to say the H. So yeah, that's the forget what I just said about the other things. When people say the H, that's when I know I made it. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
For everything else I said was a lie. That was.
Love that. But seriously, thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having
it was
me.
super fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.